Hello and welcome to the Celtic Down Under podcast. I'm your host, Jarrod, and joining me tonight are Liam and Sean. Hey, Liam, you were telling us a joke off air, so do you want to start the pod off with that because we think everyone will kind of enjoy it, and then just tell us how you've been doing for the last week?
Well, jokes are jokes, but I do want to start off on something a wee bit serious. In light of the news of the last 24 hours, I would just like to offer my best wishes to the coronavirus and the news that it may have contracted Jimmy Bell.
What happens when one mutant meets another?
I got my second COVID shot last weekend, so I was feeling a bit rough on Monday, but much better now. And only another week to go until that's me at full 5G capacity, apparently. So here we go.
There you go. I should have had that earlier. Should have had it earlier to go, but yep. How are you, Sean?
Yep, doing all right out here. Still not got any COVID. It's quite a miracle. I don't. People keep asking what's happening. I'm like, yeah, I'll be here next week, and just keeps not being here.
I'm surrounded by the bastard here in Melbourne at the moment, where I'm out west. It's all around us. It's my local bottler about like 3 kilometres down the road from my house. Someone was in there last week with a positive case, so good fun.
Yeah, that's why we're getting your grand final. Getting the Aussie rules. Yeah, well,
yeah. It's in Melbourne. Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
but anyway, come on. Who cares? Who cares at the end of the day? I actually wanted Perth to get it last year instead of going to Brisbane, so all good.
Yeah.
It's a major sport over there, so yeah, happy days. So what I want to do is just thank everyone who has subscribed for the Celtic Down Under podcast over the last few weeks. We've had quite a fair uptake on that with the subscriber count growing, so thanks a lot. And if you're listening and you haven't already done so, can you please subscribe to the Celtic Down Under podcast? Would really appreciate that. If you are listening via Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, please leave us a review. So what we'll do is we'll jump straight into the review of one of our games from last week. So it was Celtic 2, AZ Alkmaar 0 in the Europa League qualifier. Got some stats here, which are a bit different to what you put on there, Sean, but I had it as Celtic had 16 shots to AZ's 8. We had more possession. We had 54% possession. Passes was about 70 more. A lot more fouls on them. More yellow cards for us. Same amount of corners. We're offside 3 times. At the end of the day, for me, I was saying my part, and I'm going to get your opinions on it. But, yeah, I thought it was one of those games where we won 2-0, but then you see a lot of people online and stuff talking about it going, oh, but AZ could have scored 2 or 3 themselves, but we were just as wasteful in front of goals. Like, we could have scored 5 in that game quite comfortably. So it was one of those games that we said in last week's pod, it was a 50-50. It could have gone either way. The whole tie could have gone either way. So to be winning that game 2-0 and going into the next leg with a 2-goal advantage, I'm happy with that. What was your take on the game, Sean?
Yeah, I was pretty pleased with the outcome. I did feel they were a step above every team we've played so far this year. They had some really good players, particularly their captain. His name is just gone out of my head now. Tier Miners, and the left winger, the North African one. Again, I can't remember his name.
Abukal.
Yeah, Abukal. Yeah, the two of them looked really a level above AZ and a level above us. They look like they've got moves coming up in their future. AZ had 2 players on kickoff. I put that down as a note because I've not seen that in about 2 years. Normally teams just have 1 man there. It was a bit bizarre. In terms of Celtic's lineup, Starfelt getting moved to right centre back seemed to be a successful move. Stephen Welsh had one of the best games I've ever... I'm just going to say it, he had his best game I've ever seen him play for Celtic. Not one of, just the best. And Starfelt looked... Sorry?
I agree with you on that.
Yeah, and Starfelt looked more comfortable passing the ball on the right than he has been on the left. AZ started well. We had a point blank save from Joe Hart. When you seen it live, it looked like the player just hit the post, but then when you go to replay, it's like, nah, Joe Hart's got a toe to it and tipped it onto the post. And I was actually texting my old man saying how poor Rogic had been at the start, and then he just pulls off a piece of magic to set up the Kyogo goal, and I'm celebrating in the middle of the night, you know. But yeah, I actually think that in the second half, Rogic and Kyogo both looked a bit tired. But overall, Turnbull and Rogic had a good game, particularly Turnbull in the first half, Rogic in the second when he had a bit more space. And Welsh and Ralston and Joe Hart were brilliant in defence, the three of them. And yeah, that was my summary of the game.
What was your take on the game, Liam?
Yeah, I think it's been interesting to look at the way the press have been covering Celtic in the last month or two. Every time we get a big result, it's always, but you've not played a big team yet. You've not played a big team yet. And every challenge that's been a step up, we've met it. You know, we beat Dundee and people say, aye, but Jablonec are better than Dundee. Took care of them. You say, aye, but Hearts in the Cup, that'll not be an easy game. Smashed them 3-2, the most flattering 3-2 you'll ever see in world football. Should have been a much bigger margin of a win for us. You know, then it said, aye, but AZ Alkmaar, we took care of them as well in the first leg at least. You know, this Celtic team now just seems to grow with every game we play, because each time the press says to us, but this is where you might come unstuck. No. We go out and we do the job. I thought that to use a footballing cliche, it was a game of two halves, the AZ Alkmaar game, because we showed our attacking prowess, particularly in the first half, and probably up until about the 75th minute, where every time we came forward, we looked as if we could score. We were just creating so much, so many great balls through from the midfield to the front, so many great runs. Kyogo, apart from his goal, put in some shift, making runs left and right and keeping their defenders all over the place. And then for about the last 15-20 minutes, you know, you had that great little moment where Ange and Joe Hart have a wee chat. Then Joe Hart has a wee chat with Cal Mack. And it's just, okay, lads, just let's go long, keep it tight for the last 15 minutes and ride this out. And we did. It was a superb defensive performance for those last 20 minutes as well. Ralston, possibly his best game yet. Welsh, definitely his best game so far. I agree with both of you on that. Starfelt continues to improve game by game, though there's still room for development there. It's just all starting to come together. And the more people in the media try to put us down, the more confident I'm becoming.
Yeah, what you're saying there made sense, but something I also noticed as well was when Ange made his subs, like he took off guys like Abada, Furuhashi, Rogic and Turnbull, so four of probably four of our five best attacking players that started the game, and he puts on guys McCarthy, Sorrow, Edouard, Monty. So he puts on one striker, a guy who's probably a number 8, box-to-box midfielder in McCarthy, a defensive midfielder in Sorrow, and Montgomery out there, and just like, you know, tighten things up a bit more. Montgomery's a bit more defensive-minded than, say, Turnbull or Rogic, so playing out wide on the wing. So for me, it was like Ange still wants to play his style, which is attack, but changing the players out there in that last 15, 20 minutes when those guys are on, we were able to still push forward when we could, but we didn't derelict our duties defensively. And we managed to keep that clean sheet, which even though away goals don't count anymore, it's still great to get a run of clean sheet after clean sheet after clean sheet in like 3 straight games. Off the top of my head, it's probably more. But like for me, that was great to see. And someone we didn't touch on when we were talking about the defenders and that earlier, but I'm actually, the more and more I see of Montgomery, the more I'm going, yeah, there's a player there. I like him. I want to see him get more of a chance during the season. And you got all these people talking about, oh, we need another left back. What about Bolingoli? He's not in the mix, blah, blah, blah. I don't really care much for Bolingoli. Like, if he stays, great. If he goes, great. Montgomery is a guy that I think has got so much scope for improvement that if you bring in Liam Scales, who can play left back and left centre back, you've got Montgomery as a left back or a left wing back, and then you've got Taylor. I think we've got 3 different type of left backs, so it can be horses for courses, which is actually going to suit the way Ange coaches again going forward. So I think we're set at left back. Like, I'm happy with that, but it was good to see those subs come on, and it's good to see the young guys that we've got growing in confidence.
Yeah, Montgomery should have scored that header. I know it was a rebound and he had to get power on it, but he had a lot of goal to aim at and he put it straight at the defender. And then look, the AZ had, I counted it afterwards, and they had 5 great chances. One that was saved by Hart, one that was blocked by Ralston, one blocked by Welsh, and 2 that they just put off target that they should have done better with. Yeah, we had more than 5 great chances, but for them to have 5 great chances and only not score any, there's a slight element of fortune, but also an element of determination from the defence.
There is also the argument that a team that's playing well creates its own luck. Yeah, I agree, we got lucky there, but I think but by the same token, we played so well that night that had we not come out with a 2-goal victory, I think it would have been overall unfair in the balance of play.
Mm-hmm.
And off the back of that, Liam, Celtic in Europe the last few years, since the treble, the treble, I think it was, with Lenny, where we went up and did the job. We topped our Europa League group, had the Lazio games happen where we were winning away in Europe. Even though this was at home, we have been so sketchy in Europe for the last couple of seasons that I don't care who we're playing, if it's Midtjylland, if it's Jablanek, if it's Alkmaar, to see us get clean sheets, get the 2-0 win, and keep growing and improving game on game, that's all I want at the moment. I'm on record. I've said a couple of months ago on the pod, if we wrote off Europe this year and just focused on the rebuild in the league, great. I'd be happy with that, because at the end of the season, there's 40 million up for grabs and direct entry to the Champions League. So to me, that's what I've said. However, if we do a good job, manage to qualify, improve each week and still get into the Europa League, I'm not going to say no to that. For me, that's great. That's good experience and development opportunities for our players. But that's not the priority for me this season. So I'm happy either way, but yeah. Look, things are heading in the right direction.
I think that the important point is the clean sheets, because again, it's all about dismantling these false narratives that are being built up in the media. Now we'll come to other teams later on, but statistical fact here. Starfelt getting criticised, he's shaky, whatever. He's kept 3 clean sheets out of 4 games that he's played for Celtic so far.
Well, if you look at the replay where Ralston clears the ball, does the last-ditch saving tackle, in the build-up to that, Starfelt's badly out of position.
Oh, I know. Look, the guy is making mistakes, right? But I'm just saying, if you look at the stats, right, that's the number of clean sheets, okay?
You know what's funny, Liam? It doesn't, sorry to cut you off, but it doesn't matter what stats you look at. You can find whatever narrative you want in it, because I'm sure you're saying, look at the stats. It's been three out of 4 clean sheets or whatever it is for him.
Mm-hmm.
But then there'll be other people hearing that and going, yeah, Liam, I hear that. But he's out of position in this situation. He's misplaced a pass in this one. He's not cleared his lines here. And these stats are leading to other shots and secondary shots for them on goal. And you're saying clean sheets. Sean, with how technical he looks at it from a player's perspective, he's probably looking at the other side. So it's kind of funny how you say it on that front. But back to what you were saying.
Well, I think you can tell one of us plays football, the other one plays PES on his PlayStation. You know, I think that's where you can tell the difference between me and Sean. But the thing is that the main point I was trying to get at is Rangers fans in particular in the last few weeks have been saying, "Oh, your defence is leaky. The defence is all over the place. We're going to show up your defence." As of yesterday, they've conceded more goals in the league than we have, and they've scored a hell of a lot less. So, you know, that is it's a stat, but to me, it's a pretty irrefutable one.
That's called Sevco logic, though. I'm not.
Well, mathematics never was their strong point. Let's be honest.
1 = 55. Sevco logic.
Who am I kidding? Basic cognitive reasoning was never their strong point. But anyway.
You got anything else you want to add on that game, Sean, before we roll into preview in the second leg?
No, that's all on that game. In regards to... Yeah, do you want me to just roll on?
Yes, go on with it,
yeah. I said it last week and I'm sticking with it. I think it'll be one of those like really open games that is also inexplicably finishes one each. Like there'll be like 12 good chances and there'll be 2 goals, like something like that. Like I remember there was one like years ago and it was Arsenal Man United and there was like 30 shots, like good chances for each team and it finished 1-0. And I think it's going to be a one each game, even though there's going to be a lot of open play.
What do you think, Liam?
I certainly think we'll score over there. And I think, either a 1 each draw or possibly a 2-1 defeat for us, but we'll still go through.
For me, the key thing is the first goal in the next one, because we're 2-0 ahead. But as Ange and everyone keeps saying, you got to look at it like it's half time. It's a new game. It's 0-0. And the way I look at it is, if we go out there and get the first goal, we're 3 ahead, which means they've got to throw all caution to the wind and try and score 4. And if they do that, they're basically saying, here you go, Celtic, put your foot on my throat and, step down when you want. If we get that first goal, that's where we're at. But if they get that first goal, then it could be one of those really awkward games. Now, I called a 1-1 draw this one as well, like you did, Sean. So I'm hoping I think it's going to be exactly the same as you said. It's going to be a lot of shots. But I hope we get the first goal, so then they've got to step up and actually play. And then next thing you know, we could end up putting 2 or 3 past them and just absolutely just putting the end to them, basically.
That's the thing. If the save Joe Hart makes in the first 10 minutes last week, if that goes in, we could have been looking at a totally different scenario here tonight. We could have been going over there being the ones that needed to score 2 or 3.
Absolutely, because if that goal went in, the fans would have been like, oh no, here we go again, and then the players feed off that.
Yeah. And it's the same way in Alkmaar. If we get an early goal over there, it could just as easily be another 2 or 3-0 to us, because like you say, they've got to go completely gung-ho from that point. And that's exactly what Celtic want, because we just love to counter-attack teams that are going to come at us like that. So
I'd like to see McCarthy starting the match. If nothing else, to give some rest for players that are going to be playing on Sunday. And also to try and get some minutes in his legs. And, he's got the class for the occasion. It's just a question of whether he has the fitness.
Well, I actually agree with Sean, because I'm thinking, like, Rogic got his rest on the weekend, right? He only come on towards the end. But, like, he's the guy that I think what you'd do is you'd put Rogic off the bench and you put McCarthy on because he's a bit more defensive-minded. And then you could play then you've got the option, do you play Edouard and Furuhashi together through the middle? Or do you put Turnbull more into the middle? And do you keep Abada right? And do you put Christie out left or whatever? You've got options, and that's the scary part. Last season, we were didn't even look like we could get shots on goal. I remember we were talking on an old pod. You went through it, Sean, and there was a 6-game period where we had 100 shots and didn't score a goal.
We scored 2 out of 100.
2 goals, and there was 100 shots or something like that.
Yeah.
And then you look at us on the weekend just gone, and we score 6 goals. We scored 2 the game before that. We score,
6 the game
6 before that. So we've scored 14 goals in 3 games. And in those 3 games, we've had 100 shots in just those 3 games.
Yeah.
So that shows the difference.
Yeah, I read that stat that you're talking about. I think it was from Amy Canavan on Axom. 104 shots in 3 games. So I kind of went back and to make a fair comparison, I kind of looked for spells of games where we were playing other SPFL teams. Not like playing against the likes of Lazio or Sevco or whatever. And it seems like last year it was approximately 5.5 games to get that many shots. Sometimes 6, sometimes 5, depending on the kind of form we were in, but nowhere near 3 games to get that many shots.
Depending how many shots Christie took.
Yeah, basically, yeah. And that was another thing that Amy had said when I was listening to Axom, which is a great point, which is that when people like Christie and Turnbull are getting into the final third, the point she was making is last year their options were shoot on sight, or their instruction, I should say, was shoot on sight. And now, her words were, there are other options now, and they're only taking a shot when it's the best option. So last year it was shoot. Now it's, shoot if it's the best option. So it's not to say they're not shooting anymore, but it's now they're actually thinking about it.
It's funny you say that, and you actually name drop Amy in there, because I spoke to her for a Tim Talk podcast a couple of months ago, and she's one of the most intelligent football brains I think I've spoken to in, I don't know, last year or so anyway. She knows that game inside out, and it's scary, to be honest with you. She's 20 years old and she's got that much knowledge in the game. She knows her shit. So, yeah, I heard it from her, but I also saw it written online somewhere else as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agreed with everything she said.
People like her should be on Sports Scene instead of the Stephen Thompsons of this world, to be quite frank with you. No, bright, knowledgeable, outspoken, and not afraid to take a position on anything. That's, sports journalism and football journalism in Scotland specifically needs a lot more of that, I think.
I do well with her and Michael Stewart together, and I'd be happy with that. Be a perfect mentor for her.
Yeah.
I don't see why she can't do Celtic TV. I mean, they put Kelly, I forgot her surname, on for 2 years, just because she was the most senior women's player. Get Amy Canavan on there.
She's too busy with Bonnie Grows. There you go. Commentating their games and stuff. So, yeah, no, it's just great to see, though, that going back to what we were saying before, we went on the Amy Love Fest over here, but she'll love it. But yeah, it's good to see just the change in the way we're playing, and just I don't know, I love my club, but it's actually making it more enjoyable to watch again. Last year, with no crowds, the absolute dog shit that was served up by the players, and it was just last year was just a struggle. And when you got games at 4:45 in the morning, and you got games at midnight kickoff and that sort of stuff like that for us, it's just this makes you want to stay up for them or get up early for it. And I'm keen as mustard to be up at 4 o'clock on Friday morning, our time, for a 4:15 kickoff to watch the return game against Alkmaar. I can't wait. So it's just so enjoyable.
Yeah, I hope it continues. The problem has been in the past that many managers have this kind of electric kind of first year, and then it kind of dies down. Like Tommy Burns had it, Gordon Strachan had it, Neil Lennon even had it. Remember games where he beat Aberdeen 9-0 or 9-1, and even Brendan Rodgers' first season had it. And yeah, I don't know, you need to kind of have a think about why, because nobody really remembers those managers in that way, because by their third year it wasn't quite as the same, so why is that the case? Anyway, don't want to piss on your party. I'm just, I hope it keeps going, and I'm going to enjoy it while it is happening.
All right, cranky pants. sit over there in Perth, mate. Enjoy your freedom, and whatever. You're entitled to your opinion. I don't agree with it, but come on, big Ange, get behind it. Come on, team, let's go. So we'll quickly talk about Celtic 6, St Mirren 0. So we had Abada with 2 goals, hat-trick for Turnbull, Edouard scored another one. So we had 37 shots to St Mirren's 3, 12 on target for 6 goals. So that's bloody good. Possession, 74%. Passes, holy shit, we basically almost tripled them. Pass accuracy, 92%. And one hell of a red card.
That was worth 2 red cards.
People talking like, oh, that's only a yellow, blah, blah, blah. You're talking out your ass. Like, that is 100% a red card. I don't care what league you're in, what team you go for. If that was a Celtic player making that tackle and we only got a yellow, I'd be disgusted. Like, that was a disgraceful tackle. That's the same sort of thing we've been quick to bang on about for the first few weeks, where those tackles have gone unpunished. Like in the Hearts game, there was one and that sort of stuff. So at the end of the day, about time a ref's just like, yep, that's late, that's dangerous. Your foot was off the ground, red card, so go have an early shower. It's good to see, even though it was Willie Collum and I'm not a fan of his at all. He looks like such a I don't know. He looks
anemic. Yeah, he looks like he's anemic.
Yeah, he looks like ET. Went through puberty, and that's what you've ended up with is Willie Collum. But anyway, great game.
That was the old joke, wasn't it? How do you know that ET's a Hun? Because he fucking looks like one. Anyway.
But yeah,
what's ET short for?
Don't know.
Because he's got wee legs.
Right. Anyway, moving on.
Anyway, what's your take on the game, Liam?
Yeah, I thought it was brilliant. Really great to see Abada back in the team and back amongst the goals again. There's always a worry that when a player drops out of the team, even for just 1 or 2 games, that initial spark can diminish. But in his case, it clearly hasn't. I mean, his first goal is definitely a goalkeeping error, but you've got to shoot to score, and he did. And credit I believe you should always credit the striker in that situation. Great to see him get his goals. Great to see Turnbull get his hat trick. Just a great all-round performance. And of course, the obligatory Alan Power with his I'm a Hun tackle. Sad yet entirely predictable. It kind of annoys me when you watch the post-match interviews and the St Mirren stand-in manager for the day, because I know that what's his name, the St Mirren manager?
Old mate, there you go. Old mate.
Goodwin.
Jim Goodwin. He was obviously off with COVID, and all the best to him. Hope he gets well soon. But the stand-in manager there was saying, "Oh, that we were doing okay, but that sending off killed us." It's like, no, mate, your defender acting like a thug killed you, right? It's not the sending off. It's the fact that your defender cannot control himself, and if David Turnbull's foot had not been off the floor, he could have potentially had his leg broken.
We were running circles around him anyway before that card happened. So how's that a factor? Like, I don't get it. These people are employed to manage and make an informed decision on a game.
Yeah.
Any Tom, Dick, and Harry can see that in the 5 minutes previous or 10 minutes previous, they barely touched the ball. The possession stats for the whole game show that. They were going nowhere, and then that happened. Like, they're talking out their asses.
Oh, honest to God, if the prick was reaching any further, he could audition for the Fantastic Four. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. In terms of the red cards, like Michael Stewart said after the game, it was a yellow plus, whatever the fuck that is. But then and the St Mirren assistant manager who was doing the interviews, and I'm going to give you a quote: "Those have been given as yellow cards this season." Yep, they have been. And that's what we've been complaining about, because that was a fucking red card all day long. And then when they did the Sky Sports thing with the English referee, he's like, what are you even talking about? There is no question that's a red card. Like, this is a red card all day long. He was just having none of any debate. Like, and that is the difference in standards between Scotland and England. And another thing that the St Mirren manager said was the Christie tackle was similar. And I'm like, no. I mean, we agreed off air that on the day that the Christie one was worth a yellow card, and he got away with it. But, it wasn't even approaching a red. So, no, you're not doing that. You're not creating a false equivalence.
The comparison on that tackle, the only reason that Christie one's getting brought up is because it happened in the same game. That's it. Yeah. If there wasn't that red card early on in the game, and then Christie's one was copped the yellow, you wouldn't even have this discussion. His name wouldn't be in anyone's mouth about it. It'd just be like, whatever.
Yeah. I thought he had a reason. I thought he had actually a point about the disallowed goal. I thought that the St Mirren goal should have stood. That would have made it 2-1. And I thought that was onside in the replay.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah. And it was Ralston playing him on. And Ralston had a good game otherwise. His forward passing from deep was really good. It's like some great through balls in behind. But it should have been 2-1 at that point. It's not going to change the outcome of the game, but, we would have lost our clean sheet. Turnbull, I thought, was everywhere throughout the game. He had my man in the match vote before he even scored the third goal late on. So he was just great. And another thing was that, did you hear that Joe Hart absolutely done us at halftime? Did you hear what he did?
I went up to the St Mirren keeper and basically had a word with him and said, just keep your head up and keep making saves. And
exactly. And then what did he come out and do? He kept his head up and kept making saves.
Why would you do that? We're on track to get an absolute freaking cricket score.
Yeah, he made 2 or 3 brilliant saves in the second half. I know he fucking chucked that one in the net at the start, but then he made after his pep talk from Joe Hart, he made a few brilliant saves.
It's the old goalkeepers union. They got to look after each other. That's what it is.
Just as long as he keeps the hell away from Alan McGregor on Sunday, we'll be fine.
Yeah, he's done his dirty, man. He done his dirty. Yeah. And I made an observation about Edward as well that kind of links to the next topic on the run sheet. But one thing I noticed about the difference between him playing up and the number 9 versus Kyogo playing there is that when the midfielders or fullbacks are playing the ball into feet for the striker, Edward's standing waiting on it. Whereas when you watch Kyogo do it, he actually comes to the ball. Like
runs the space to try and get onto the end of a cross to just tap it in or just get a shot off it. Where Edward, he wants to get the ball, receive it, and then turn and beat a man. That's pretty much the difference between the two of them.
Yeah, but not even that. Just even when the two, like, if either of them has their back to goal, like in the same situation, Edward stands and waits it and expects a quality pass or is not anticipating the defender try to intercept it. Whereas Kyogo is just moving towards it, dragging the defender with him, kind of thing. Which,
I just want to throw his name in there. What do you think of him compared to those two in terms of movement?
And compared to which two, sorry?
Furuhashi and Eddie. What was a Yeti's movement like? Was it
Yeti.
In that sort of situation? Have you forgotten that guy? He wears number 10. We paid £5 million for him. I don't even know if he existed until the weekend, that guy.
Yeah, he did well in the last 10 minutes. Yeah.
To pay him his due, he basically made the last goal with that tackle to win the ball out wide. Whatever you think of the guy's ability, whatever, there's certainly no lack of effort there for him to make that effort. In a game where we're already cruising and well ahead, he still has that drive to win that ball, get the ball into midfield, and then, of course, it sets up Turnbull's goal. I don't know if he's ever going to make it at Celtic, but I can't fault the guy for trying, that's for sure.
I don't think he's your Ange type striker, but he is good to have as a different sort of player. Like, he's more of a physical presence than our other strikers, and that tackle for that last goal proved it. So you get out there, like Furuhashi would have gone out there, pressed the guy and probably picked his pocket. Eddie would have ran at him but been like 3 steps too late like usual when he's pressing. And yeah, so it was good to see Yeti get there. But then what I also noticed was some of the runs he was making was in the box, the ball would go wide, would make a cross, and he'd be running making the same sort of runs that Furuhashi was, but he's not as quick. But I actually thought he was still making those runs, the couple of them that I saw him do. So to me, it looks like he's learning and trying at least to do that. So I still think there's hope for him. But yeah, watch his space because transfer window ends in 6 days, something like that. So who knows?
I think that's a wider influence of something that Kyogo's having on the whole team, though, because I've noticed an increase in Eddie trying at least to tackle back. You notice that greater effort from Ajeti, both with his tackling and the runs that he's making. I think that Kyogo has not only brought his own flair and brilliance to the front line, but he's also kind of given the other strikers at the club a metaphorical kick up the backside as well and said, look, this is what you should be doing. And now they are trying at least to emulate that, I think.
It's the levels. He's like, this is the level that you need to be at, which is what Kyogo's doing. If you guys want that jersey in that spot, you've got to do the same thing. You've got to be at that level or better to take it from him. It's the same as where we're talking about Ralston, where, okay, their goal should have stood, and that was his one major mistake for the game. But now you look at who's come in. Josip Juranovic has been signed on a 5-year deal from Legia Warsaw for £2.5 million, which was our next topic to discuss. But if normally you'd think, Croatian international and Ralston, who's been nowhere near our squad for the last God knows how many years, realistically you'd be thinking, okay, Juranovic should be coming in, he'd be your starter, and then Ralston would just be his backup, right? But the level that Ralston's playing at for us at the moment shows that Juranovic is going to have to come in and get to that same level, if not above it, to take the jersey off him. So that's what we need. You need two players every position, pushing each other day in, day out, competing for the jersey. You get that. The toughest matchup they're going to have is keeping their teammate out of the squad on the week during the week at training and performing in the games, because if you that aggressive and working that hard at training, then the weekend games will be easy or easier.
Yep.
Sorry, you go ahead.
No, you go. No.
I was going to say, just it shows you the incredible level of transformation that Ange has brought to some of our players. I think largely with the fact that we're going into a big European game and a game against the Huns, and in both occasions, my first thought is, oh, for God's sake, don't drop Anthony Ralston. I never ever thought I'd be in a position where we're going into a game against Rangers and I'm saying Ralston must start, you know.
Well, let's talk about that for a second, because you got Ralston, who was, everyone thought he was lucky to be, it was desperation for us because we had no other right backs to extend him another season. And look how well he's playing. He's probably one of our top 3 players for the season so far. You've got Rogic, who we almost sold him for £2-3 million this time last year to, was it a Qatari or a Saudi Arabian team? Look at the level he's playing at. And you look at stuff like that and you're just like, well, what an improvement is he doing with some players? There's others there that are finding a new level again. Guys like Christie. Kalmak's come back to his levels that was before Lenny. You've got Turnbull's got to another level. I think he's still got more gears to get through, which Ange can push him and develop him for. So if you look at those sort of guys, it's like that's the equivalent of like 4 or 5 new signings on what we had from last season, and the development is just unbelievable. I'd love to get your take on that, Sean.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. Like, I'm surprised that Ralston was probably going to be gutted he's not in the Scotland team. Because, like, Stephen O'Donnell and Nathan Patterson's not getting a game, and O'Donnell is O'Donnell.
We'll get a game on the weekend.
Well, yeah, if it's true that Tavernier, has COVID, he'll get a game this weekend. So that'll be interesting, the battle of the 2 Scottish right-backs. But, yeah, as you say, it's the longest run of games he's ever had for Celtic, and he's stood up to the challenge. So Look, he needs to get rested at some point, but for the next 2 games, he has to stay in. I don't know. I would maybe think about resting him against AZ tonight, but it's probably not given Juranovic's condition. I would say that he's. Oh, is he cup tied? Oh,
yeah, he played for Legia in the Europa League last week, so he's not eligible for this one.
Okay, so definitely not getting rested, and I wouldn't be resting him for Sevco on Sunday either. So I'd be looking at
break after that. He can have a few days off training then.
Yeah, so get him together on training, and at that point, it's a fair contest. But at the moment, if you were forecasting to the end of the season and say we've got 60, 61, 62 games, whatever, you'd be saying you'd expect Ralston to play 40 of those, and Juranovic to play about 20.
Who would have thought that 3 months ago?
Yeah. And look at the price we paid for Juranovic. It's actually not bad, $2.5 million for someone that's... Yeah, it's not bad for an international who's going to be, well, we assume is going to be effective, because we had internationals come in like Moritz Bauer who were not effective. So I'm not going to start singing his praises yet, but it seems on paper like a good deal.
Just have a look at previous history, the last couple of seasons, on Balkan defenders, right? So left back, right backs, who are national team starters, right? There's a comparison. There's been 3 or 4 of them who have gone from down the Balkans way to Italy and to like the Netherlands, and the average transfer fee is about £7 million.
Mm-hmm.
And we've picked one up for $2.5 million. There you go. Bargain.
Yep.
I was saying it last season that Eastern Europe is an underdeveloped market, definitely. It really
I heard Cham has been linked with Legia Warsaw as well.
Good. Maybe Arthur Boric will scare him and actually playing.
Oh, God. It's more likely him and Boric will go out and get pished, but you never know.
Yeah, that'll be interesting if he ends up there. But yeah, so at the end of the day, I think Juranovic is a good signing for us. We'll just quickly kick on about a couple of other things. So there was the rumours of Griffiths plus approximately £3 million to Hibs for Nisbet. That was rubbished by Jack Ross. However, it wasn't completely put the kibosh through it or whatever. So I don't know. I think that's a watch this space. I think if we sign Giacomakis from VVV Venlo, then that's a no-goer. If we can't sign him, then that still may rear its head come end of transfer window. Either way, I don't think Griffiths will be with us after the transfer window. We'll either release the guy or move him on.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I wasted a lot of time sticking up for Lee Griffiths last season, but I'm afraid the guy's dead wood now. He really it's just one problem after another with him, and you can only put so much of it down to mental health and what have you. At some point, a person has to take responsibility for their own health, and the signs show that he clearly isn't willing to do that, either his physical fitness or his mental fitness. And he just strikes me as a guy who just doesn't want it anymore. And if you don't want to play for a team like Celtic, then as our manager has already said, he has no time for players like that. So I don't expect Lee Griffiths to be there much longer, regardless of what happens.
I got a perfect one for you. Celtic shirts do not shrink to fit inferior players. I think that's the quote. And with the way he's been the last few seasons, his time's up. He needs to leave. And one of the guys on Axom, I can't remember which one it was, said, maybe he should go down the English Championship because he's a goal scorer. Nah, I think he needs to go somewhere else where, he can get away and restart. So whether that's goes to the MLS or come down into the A-League or go play in Japan or whatever, maybe that'll fix him up. Who knows? Different culture, get out of Scotland. But because he's got a troop of young kids over there, I doubt that'll happen.
Yeah, he's got 5 kids. And apparently when he was at Wolves, he was coming back up to Scotland every chance he got, every day off, he'd be back in Scotland. So it seems to me like I don't see Hibs selling as Nesbitt unless we put in stupid money, because they've lost their other striker until next year. So what I can see happening though is Griffiths going on loan in the last day of the transfer window to Hibs. And yeah, maybe if we pay stupid money, Nesbitt coming the other way, but either way, I do believe Griffiths will go there. Well, they might join Scott Brown, because I don't think Aberdeen are finished looking for strikers. But yeah, I think it's a loan deal.
I mean, he's only got a year left on his Celtic contract anyway, hasn't he? So a loan would essentially become a sort of rent to buy, wouldn't it?
Well, we did that with Chris Commons.
Aye.
So there was a story during the week of Ange Postecoglou saying that he's looking at the J League for more signings, but he feels that deals may currently be impossible. So the talk is that he's going to look to go in there come the January window when the J League season will be over by then, won't it, Liam?
Yeah, basically the J League season runs from... Well, the main season runs from March until November. And there is usually a 2-week break in July because it's just too hot to be playing outdoors at that point. And that was when we kind of went in and got Kyogo, was at the start of that mid-season break. Yeah, the actual there's a cup tournament that runs into December as well. The Emperor's Cup finals usually played on New Year's Day, but the main season ends mid-November. So from that point on, we can start looking at players and having discussions with a view to completing deals in January, I would think. Yeah, it's there's. I don't know specifically who Ange is looking at, but I know there's quite a few players in Japan who are doing very well this season and are actively agitating for moves to Europe. So I would not be surprised at all if we went back in for possibly as many as 2 or 3 players from the J League in January.
Wouldn't surprise me. And the thing I'm looking at is going, well, you're saying the season ends in November, so that'd be perfect then. If they know their season's ending, and you saw the send-off Furuhashi got, wouldn't you just try to arrange, once this transfer window's open or ended, try to start pre-working on the guys you want, agreeing fees, getting everything lined up so as soon as January 1 hits, bang, they're in the country. They already fly over 2 weeks before, isolate if they have to. So January 1, they're ready to hit the ground running up at Celtic Park. Like, that would be perfect in my opinion.
It's probably already happening.
Yeah.
I mean, going the other way, I know that when Iniesta moved from Barcelona to Vissel Kobe, now the fact that both of those clubs are sponsored by Rakuten, and Rakuten basically brokered the deal. That's basically sort of Japan's equivalent to Amazon, Rakuten. That deal wasn't publicly known, but it was widely known it was going to happen for about 9 months before he actually went there. These things are usually planned well in advance. So I would not be surprised at all if Ange is currently speaking to a player or two and their representatives right now with a view to completing deals at the end of the J League season.
It's technically not tapping up because, like, you see guys like Dortmund do it all the time where, you know, when, what's the guy's name? He left, Dembele, when he left there to go down to Barcelona, they'd already pre-agreed a few couple of deals to come in. So, yeah, all clubs do it. It's forward planning. So it'd be clever if we do that. And it would also allow us to, especially with Ange's knowledge, he can go, these are the guys I want. Let's get them signed up. Let's have them ready to go and we can pull the trigger, get them over come December time once their season's over so they can do their hotel quarantine and get them up for the medicals and everything, and off you go. Come January 1 would be perfect because that way we'll get the jump over the teams who would normally look at Japan, like the German clubs, Holland, Belgium, those sort of clubs there to be better for us.
The whole dynamics of how transfers are done is a lot different in Japan from how it is in Europe. In Europe, it's the agents that drive it. But in Japan, it's more so the clubs that drive it. So when I said that Ange is probably already talking to people, he'll be talking to clubs directly. And that way, it is not in any way tapping up, because the club is fully aware of what their player is thinking of doing at every stage. It's just a much more upfront way of doing things. And I think that's one reason why there isn't the absolute funny money in the J-League that there currently is in, for example, the Chinese Super League, because agents have not been able to get their claws into it yet, and hopefully they don't for some time to come.
That's good to hear. What's your take, Sean?
I certainly don't have the same depth of knowledge as Liam, but I'll just say we're 2 for 3, 2 out of 3 on Japanese players, so bring it on. Let's just pretend Koki Mizuno never happened.
Yep, fair enough. Okay, Sean, I'll throw to you then for something more in your wheelhouse. Do you want to give the rundown of the women's team and the Colts team?
Yeah, the women had their little sojourn in Europe. Unfortunately, they weren't successful. They lost 2-1 to Levante. They managed to get a goal back from it when they were 2-0 down with a free kick from their own half. I think it was Caitlin Hayes, and it bounced over the goalkeeper. It was quite a goal.
That was unreal.
Yeah, look up on Twitter if you get a chance. And so that was them out. They couldn't progress after that, but they stuck around. I mean, Levante are a good team. They were the second best team in Spain last year, just behind Real Madrid. And stuck around for a kind of 3rd, 4th place consolation game against Minsk, even though there was nothing really to play for other than pride. And that went to extra time at 1 each. And they went 3-1 down in extra time, pulled one back and lost 3-2 overall. So they lost both games, but by all accounts, they gave a good account of themselves. Then the Celtic B team only had one game since our last pod. It was a 1-0 win over Dalbeattie Star. Adam Brooks scored the only goal in the 19th minute. And I managed to catch some complaints on the Twitter sphere about fans asking why the game had kicked off at the same time and date as the A team game against St Mirren. Like, surely that's a loss of revenue there, not finding a way to make that a possibility for fans to do a double header.
Yeah, I pity the fool that clashes with the A team, but there you go.
Yeah, I was going to make an A team joke. Anyway, no, I think it's a bit rich, to be honest with you. We're playing these Lowland League teams at their ground, right? That's where it was.
Ooh, I couldn't tell you from. I didn't write it down. Whatever. Sorry.
But at the same time, it's like we're in the Premiership and in the Lowland League. Like, I know people want to watch both, but it's a tough one because if the ground you're playing at doesn't have a certain level of lighting, and we're playing, what was our game? It was a 3 p.m. kickoff, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So if you've got a 3 p.m. kickoff, if that game ends at like 5 o'clock, the other game, if it was to be played straight after, then you're looking at the potential of you're going to need lighting. Or
well, it turns out it was a home game. We played it in Airdrie. But yeah, why not play it before rather than after?
Man, that's the other thing. So you've got options there, but suppose it's one of those ones where you've just got to go with that's the fixture you were given by the league, so you just got to suck it up and get on with it. Like,
I think maybe. So this planned redevelopment of Barrowfield, they're talking about putting a AstroTurf in there for the women, and they never mentioned at the time because they didn't exist, the B team. So maybe we could get to a position where the B team can play their home games at Barrowfield at like 12:30, and then fans can just go along to the game at 3 o'clock just along the road, just at Celtic Park.
That was what I'd heard off the record. So yes.
I mean that's a good thing that Celtic did actually. Those two Celtic women's games last week, they were both ran on Celtic TV, and then an hour later it would run into first the Alkmaar game and then the St Mirren game. And I thought that was a good way to do it. Have the sort of double header of, you could watch. I don't know if the games were available to subscribers in the UK. I don't know what the rights issues are there, but certainly for me, it was good to be able to sit down and watch 2 Celtic games back to back, and I think that if you can coordinate it with the B team and with the women's team, that is something that we could do almost every week,
I'll be honest with you, I don't have Celtic TV. And if the women's games, every single women's game home and away was shown on Celtic TV, and every Colts game was shown on Celtic TV as well, then I'd sign up. At the moment, I don't think it's value for money over here. But
I mean, you're trebling the value there just by just with a simple logistical exercise. It really, to me, it's a shoot at what we call a shooty in one. I really can't see any downside to Celtic doing that, and it's not even going to cost them any money because they would send cameras to these games anyway because they always put the highlights on YouTube. So does it really cost that much to send a commentator as well as a couple of cameramen?
Not really. We can just take the you wouldn't even need the cameras. Like say if you were to go to, I mentioned them earlier, but if you were to go to Bonnyrigg Rose or whatever, they already have cameras there because they record it and have their own, they show it themselves. So if you could get their feed and just have your own commentary on top of it, then great.
I give the smaller clubs a couple of quid into the bargain. Everybody benefits.
Exactly. Pay them for the feed, then they get a bit extra pocket money, and then we just pay one person as a commentator, or 2 people can sit in the studio and commentate off the feed. Perfect.
Yeah, we'll do it for free.
There you go. Celtic FC, if you're listening, Sean has volunteered.
Yep.
I'll do it when we play Rangers, provided that there's like a 10-second delay for swearing,
I need a dump button for us. Yep. All right. So we'll crack into the derby on the weekend. So there's a few things that we need to discuss. So I'll just rattle off one thing, and then we'll just go around the room, have our say on them, go to the next thing just to push through it all. So Rangers aren't giving Celtic any tickets to the derby. Sean?
Yeah, I think this is a non-story, to be honest. Storm in a teacup. We've not given any tickets to St Mirren or Hearts, so if I'm going to complain about Sevco not giving us any tickets, then I'd be a hypocrite. So it's disappointing, but also it is the current state of affairs.
I say good, because if we nick a goal early on, their own fans will turn on them, and it'll actually become as much of a burden as a benefit. I really think that they will, can you imagine half-time on Sunday if we are 1 or 2 goals ahead and the boos ring around Ibrox? They will well and truly shit themselves.
Have you heard they're going to knock together a pretend flag to raise? Because the SPFL haven't sent them the flag yet because of the whole thing that's going on with Cinch.
Oh, for God's sake.
They're just going to grab a flag from somewhere and just stitch a Rangers badge on it or something like that.
That's all right. Go to Turkey and get one made along with some more Castori shirts. Perfect.
Yeah.
There's no shortage of flags in Belfast. I'm sure they could dig one up.
Oh, no, they were all burned on the 12th of July, weren't they?
all those Ivory Coast flags.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so with the tickets for me, I'm like, I'm not fast. I don't want to give them any money. But at the same time, unless it's going to be done properly, like we can't guarantee that we're going to be able to give them tickets to the one in January, because who knows what the world's going to look like in, 4-5 months' time.
Mm-hmm.
Are there going to be lockdowns? Is everything going to be good as gold again? Who knows? So you can't guarantee that. So unless both guys are just going to be like, okay, you get your 7,000 tickets, we get the Broomlane stand, they get their corner like it used to be, and everything's good to go, then it's a non-starter for me. I don't really care too much for it. But I do love it when we got a whole stand and we're celebrating hardcore and they couldn't handle it. It was brilliant.
I like the meme that's been doing the rounds the last couple of days on Facebook that says, if everything that's happened in the last 10 years, just never forget they cut our allocation at Ibrox because we partied too hard too often. That is a defining memory of the last 10 years for me.
All right, next topic. This is the one, so I'm going to try not to be too controversial here. Supporters bus. I was going to name the podcast Huns on a Bus because of what happened. Everyone, you would have seen it by now, the video footage of guys picking on Kyogo, the racist abuse because he's Asian. Want to just go around, have a quick discussion about that situation. Liam, you living in Japan, can you tell us what it was like over there if it was reported? I want to get what you guys thought of the reaction by the media, Celtic as the football club, and also by Rangers. So we'll go to you first, Liam.
Right. Well, first of all, it was reported over here, but only in the English language press. Unfortunately, racism is a thing that isn't really taken very seriously in Japan. And that is whether it be, acts of racism against Japanese people or more Japanese people committing acts of racism against other people, which sadly does happen here sometimes, as it happens in every country. But the English language press here, basically, the one thing which you would never find in Scotland, they very much spoke about the fact that Rangers have a history of this and that their fans have been called up by UEFA numerous times for racist, anti-Irish, anti-Catholic, prejudicial chanting and gestures. And they kind of, the way they reported it as like it's just the latest in a long line of crimes that Rangers have committed. And sadly, you can't really defend them. On a more personal level, I was really sad to see this because, as you guys know, my better half is a Japanese lady. She and I are hoping to visit Scotland when things get back to normal, because she's never been outside Japan, and she was really excited about going to Scotland. But when she saw this, she's scared. She's worried. Like, what if we run into people like that in Scotland? Well, And I said to her, "Don't worry. If we run into people like that, I will deal with them as I know how." But it's not a nice thing having to sit down and tell your partner that, yeah, I'm sorry, but my country does have a small but very vocal crowd of racist idiots who continue to embarrass us internationally. But the guy I feel sorry for most of all this is Kyogo. Whatever team you support, that guy has brought nothing but joy to Scottish football since he came. He plays with a smile on his face. The fans love him. He loves the fans. He's humble. He's friendly. He's outgoing. He's never said a bad word about anybody. And he does not deserve any of this shit. And it's wrong on so many levels. And believe me, nothing is going to put a bigger smile on my face than if he bags a hat-trick against those scum on Sunday. I tell you, I cannot wait.
I hope he pulls his eyes if he does.
Yes.
No, the referee will book him for, incitement.
Yeah, making racist gestures.
Can you imagine a Japanese guy getting booked for race? Oh God, I can just imagine it. Jesus.
Yeah, I was saying to you off air, Jarrod, that one of the best things about the proliferation of digital media is that it's overturning all these logs and stones that these cretins used to be able to hide under, and they're now being exposed to the light of day. And though these songs are actually not new, they sung them about Nakamura, and they actually sung them at Ibrox about Nakamura. Thousands of people singing these songs. and Rangers at the time, before it was Sevco, didn't take any action then. And I'd have been interested to see if this song first surfaced on Sunday coming, they couldn't have taken any action. You can't ban thousands of people, or they wouldn't have banned thousands of people. So if anything, it's actually been a good PR exercise for Sevco. It's just been one bus of people, and they did act swiftly and they did act decisively, and I do give them a positive acknowledgement for that. The only thing that was missing was that they didn't actually acknowledge, in the statement about banning the fans, they didn't actually acknowledge that racism had occurred. They just described it as unacceptable behaviour or whatever. They didn't, that was poor. But apart, 90% of their reaction was good, and they controlled the story well, and it was all good moves from them. Good moves from Celtic to come out and make a statement, even when they could have just kept a silence on it. I think everyone acts pretty properly, apart from the Sevco fans who thought they could get away with it. I don't know if you noticed this, but before the ban was issued, the story broke in the Daily Ranger that the person had resigned by leaving the WhatsApp group of the Westwood Supporters Club, Rangers Supporters Club, and as if that was it. Oh, I'm sorry guys, I'm going to resign I'm going to leave the WhatsApp group. That's it, all done. See you later.
Did you hear the funny offshoot of that, Sean? The screenshot from that. Do you hear the funny offshoot from that? The screenshot of the WhatsApp message had a couple of phone numbers at the top, completely open for everyone to see. And so a couple of people were copping all sorts of pelters because they're in the same group chat.
Oh dear, these people, brain cells, But yeah, I've been in that pub for drinks a few times, and it doesn't really surprise me that sort of behaviour has happened. I grew up in East Kilbride. I've been randomly attacked for having a bit of green and white shown through under my jacket. That's what East Kilbride's like, and it's what larger parts of Greater Glasgow are like, and it's sad, but hopefully we can push them to the margins and make them feel outcast.
I would like to just add that I've been very encouraged by. I made a post about this on Twitter, and I did have a lot of positive engagement from genuine Rangers fans, as opposed to Huns. Guys who were like, "This is disgusting. This is not what my club should be about." And I do just want to give those guys their due and say respect and thank you. For we stuck up for your player last season when he got racially abused, and thank you guys for returning the compliment.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to touch on as well, because my take on it is the exact same thing I said when it was Kamara. I don't care if you're black, white, Asian, purple, Tinky Winky, Cookie Monster, whatever. I don't care who you are. There's no place for racism. At the end of the day, we're all human. We all breathe oxygen. We all got blood running through our veins. So there's no place for it, not just in football, but in this world. And yeah, it was good to see, as you were saying, Liam, Rangers fans online coming out and saying, I don't want this involved in my club. It's good to see them finally, I'd say 2 years ago on Twitter, you wouldn't have seen that. So the fact of the matter is that there's so many of them out there saying, no, I don't want this tarnishing my club. I don't want to be involved in this anymore. We don't want these people in our club, and supporting them being banned. That's great to see. So good job. However, if this club didn't have such a history of this sort of shit show and racism and bigotry, they shouldn't even have to come out and say that. And that's the worst part. That's the part that annoys me. And Celtic's response was great. Ange's video was great, where he's come out and he goes, it's not about education. People should know what's right and wrong. And he's spot on. And I feel bad. Overall, I feel bad the worst for Kyogo. But on a second level, I feel bad for Ange because, as he said in that, he's the one who brought him over for it. So you can tell he's actually feeling bad about it as well. But at the end of the day, it's great timing as we're saying, as you said earlier, Sean, because we're playing them this weekend and the PR that Rangers have been able to do on this. Now let's see if that's just talk or if they're going to walk the walk. And if this weekend, if there's any of that sort of singing, if we see any of the stuff we used to see when Scott Sinclair was there, where guys doing monkeys in the crowd or guys pulling at their eyes now because of Kyogo or anything like that, let's see what they do. Let's see if it's all talk or are they actually going to ban more fans. Make a statement, Rangers. Don't tolerate this shit anymore. That's all I've got to say.
Yep.
I just want to add one more thing. I was really impressed by what Ange said. His statement talking about being an immigrant himself and his time in Japan, and a lot of it really, really chimed with me personally. And he showed there that he's not just a great tactician and great manager, he's a great leader of men. And I thought that his words were absolutely superb.
Hugh Keevins apparently said something and then had a climb down today. I didn't hear what it was. I don't know.
Oh yeah, he made a complete arse of himself the other night. Cut a long story short, he basically said racism now is not as bad as it was 60 years ago.
Fuck off. Seriously, mate.
Yeah. No, and then he said 60 years ago we didn't have racism. He said we had bigotry, but we didn't have racism. Yeah.
Back when people were throwing bananas on the pitch.
Yeah, back when there were jobs saying no Irish need apply. Hugh Keevins just. I don't know if the guy is genuinely going senile or if he was just completely befuddled and trying to get attention, or if it was just the sort of the caricature of the racist old granddad trying to think of the right thing to say and just putting his foot deeper and deeper in it every time. But he really did not do himself any favours at all with his statements. It was idiotic, it was stupid, and it was even more idiotic that Radio Clyde didn't jump in and correct him when he was making such an arse of himself. Because I don't believe the guy is racist or anything. I think he was just ignorant and naive in what he said. But there are smarter, younger, more professional people on that show who should have jumped in and said, look, just stop there. This does not represent our station or what we say, whatever. You know, racism is unacceptable and has always been unacceptable. But they didn't do that. They let him continue his rant. And it was embarrassing. For a man of his standing in Scottish journalism, it was absolutely embarrassing.
And whoever gets Hugh Keevins for the Christmas, Chris Kringle this year, please get him a dictionary so he can actually look up the difference in his dictionary between bigotry and racism because, yeah, clearly he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yep. No, just because I was going to go into it, but racism is technically a form of bigotry, but yeah, maybe not.
Exactly. I just laughed because I saw your final thought on the run sheet, Sean. So, anyway, all right, so we've got a couple more things for the derby. So Kevin Clancy, referee, John Beaton, fourth official. Your thoughts, boys?
Could be worse.
Kevin Clancy's a guy who likes to get attention, likes to be the centre of attention. I wonder if he might actually red card one of them just to get the limelight.
The thing with Clancy for me is he's the sort where, you know how you get a lot of refs and they're what you call homers, so they always give like the borderline calls in the way of the home team. He's the opposite. He likes to roll people up. So I don't know if that'll work in our favour or not, but could have been worse.
Yeah, it's not Madden, it's not Beaton, and Douglas Ross is not doing the line. So that would be the worst. They're the worst case scenarios. Everything else is just like pick your poison.
Yep. And then we've got the last thing we need to touch on is the Sev COVID breakout. So everyone would have heard Rangers have had some players finally test positive to COVID. Now,
somehow, finally.
There's all sorts of shit being spoken out there, but the key takeaways for this for me are, because this is for a UEFA competition, UEFA dictates that everyone gets tested before they leave the country. So 24 hours before the country. So when that happens, UEFA's controlling the samples, so they got them done locally in Scotland. Funny that there is positive tests for Rangers the first time their actual tests aren't sent to a lab over in Belfast to check for them. If they weren't playing away in Europe this weekend, in the next day, do you really think this would have been brought to our attention? Or do you think that we'd be having positive players and people who should be isolating playing against us on the weekend? What's your thoughts, Sean?
100% they would be playing. Yep. I'd love to have someone go in and do a serology study on the Rangers squad and see how many of them have had COVID in the last year by looking at their serum blood samples. And I would guess maybe all of them. Like, we said it at the time, and we're saying it again now, that the run of luck that they had last year was incredible. And in light of this, I'm starting to lean maybe it wasn't luck. I get it's a bit tinfoil hattish, but then there's there's a lot of past precedent for them just getting to do whatever the fuck they want. And when we had one person return a COVID case, the SFA rewrote the rules to say that we had to go from 2 buses to 5, and that we had to isolate more people. We had to extend what classified players. So they had to extend what classified as a close contact and all that stuff, and that was we were sending these pictures to the SFA, and the SFA acted on those pictures, and my feeling is that this is obviously coming from the Ross County trip bus. And I've got a sneaking suspicion that they're going to change the rules between now and Sunday, so that if somebody returns 2 negative tests or something to that effect, then they'll be available.
If that happens, then Celtic should lodge an official objection, because we should not be putting our players at risk.
Take it to the cast, man. Take it to arbitration for sport, because that's what you'll have to do.
Aye.
You'll go above the SPFL and the SFA. If they make those rule changes that's not voted on by all the clubs, which they can't do, then you need to take it straight to UEFA. And if they can't do it, then you take it straight to arbitration for sport. It needs to happen. Lawyer up, selfish if you have to. Protect your players, protect your assets, protect the league.
This is where the chickens come home to roost for Rangers, though, because, years and years of just talking down to everybody else in the country and treating all the other teams like dog shit, and now the other one's in the shit. See if this would have happened to St Mirren or Hibs or Dundee United, I would have at least been willing to listen to the idea of changing the rules so that they could field a team. But with Rangers, they're not going to get any sympathy from anybody. It's not just Celtic that don't have any time for them. They've pissed off the entire league with their attitude over the last couple of years. And
particularly the last couple of weeks, Liam, with the cinch thing as well.
Well, aye. I mean,
pissed everyone off.
But that is just the latest in a long line of them thinking they're fundamentally better than everybody else, and I have very, very little sympathy for them. Don't get me wrong, I hope that none of the players get seriously ill, and I hope that it just blows through them like it should do for people in their age group and level of fitness most of the time. But with this Delta variant, it's no guaranteed that they're all going to come through unscathed. That's another issue as well. Another reason why I don't want any of our players put at risk. It's COVID is not it's just a cold that a lot of people seem to think it is if you're under 40, plenty of people in the same demographic as your average Rangers player, fit people in their 20s and 30s have got seriously ill and even died from this thing. So it needs to be taken seriously. And clearly, up until now, with their Lodge Lab in Belfast, they've not been taking this seriously, and it's now they've been caught out. I mean, you had their new guy Lundstrom admit a few weeks ago that there were COVID cases at the club. That was before any of this current storm came out. So clearly, they've been. It's not a question of have they been at it. It's a question of how long have they been at it. How long have they been actively suppressing COVID cases?
And how have they been getting away with it?
Aye, and how many lives have they endangered in the meantime?
I think we all know the answer to that question.
Aye.
Thought you'd like that.
Tickling the right knuckles. Yeah.
Well, if that's the case, we'll just quickly roll it back into the... Sean, do you want to rattle off the names of the people that you saw allegedly linked?
Well, I've seen two different sources now. The first one was Tavernier, Wright, Sakala, and sorry, the other one's going out of my head. And then the other list I saw had Kent, Jarrod, Tavernier. God, sorry, I'm going from memory now. I've lost my note. But
first list.
Sorry?
McLaughlin was on the first list.
Oh, sorry. That was the McLaughlin and McGregor as well. Yeah. So McLaughlin was on both lists and McGregor was on the second list I've seen as well. But what I'm seeing in the Daily Ranger just now is that 2 positive tests and unconfirmed number of close contacts. That's what the Daily Ranger are reporting.
Oh.
If that's true that McGregor and McLaughlin are out, as an act of goodwill, should we loan them Barcast for one game?
Solidarity.
So I just want to finish off this whole COVID talk thing here with a tweet that was put out by Matt McGlone. Strange, isn't it, that when your COVID Scottish tests are not sent to Belfast, but you're under UEFA rules, that all of a sudden you have umpteen COVID tests. Just like the 3 red cards out of 4 games in Europe, but no red cards in Scotland is again a coincidence. Pretty much sums up the situation, doesn't it?
Yes. Conspiracy.
So, what do you think we're going to see lineup-wise on Sunday, Sean? And what's your score prediction?
Well, before all the... to not account for COVID absences, I would say 1 each. If they're missing 7 or 8 players from COVID, I'd fancy us 3-1. But we'll see how that shakes. Yeah, so yes, I am predicting that tomorrow night and Sunday is 1 each, both. In terms of the lineup, I think back 4 will stay, back 5 will stay the same. The midfield 3 will be the same 3 as we've had in the last 2 league games. And Forest will... Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it, to choose between
Abada or Forest is pretty much your question, isn't it?
Well, it's 2 of 3 from Forest, Abada and Christie. And then it's Kyogo up front. So I don't see Edward starting. And yeah, I think maybe Abada might be the one to get dropped out of those 2-3 people.
What are you thinking? Are you going to say, Liam?
I want to go with the front 3 of Abada on the right, Forrest on the left, and Kyogo through the middle. Christie's been good, don't get me wrong, and certainly have him on the bench, but Forrest always seems to save his best games for against them. Abada is just on fire right now, and him and Kyogo both are forming a kind of a, not so much a partnership, but an understanding, a link-up that is really good and really positive. And I think Rangers have played against Christie and Forrest before. They know what to expect. Abada and Kyogo especially are unknown qualities. And with their defence looking as fragile as it did again, I mean, they lost 2 goals to Ross County, who I think are basically relegation fodder this season. We should play as unpredictable a lineup as possible. And I think the more players that they haven't faced before, the better. So I say throw in Abada and Kyogo up front. Keep Eddie on the bench as a good option to bring on, because I think we want to play at a high tempo. And Eddie, through no fault of his own, it's just his style of play. We play at a much lower tempo going forward when he's our main front man. And Kyogo is still good, but less effective on the wing. Play him through the middle. I would start in the midfield. Again, I'm surprised I'm saying this because a few weeks ago I didn't think it would have worked, but I want Rogic and Turnbull in there with Kalmak. And Ralston. Taylor has done nothing wrong so far this season. I'd keep him in the team as well. Welsh and Starfelt. And of course, Big Joe Hart in goals. And I think that's us good to go.
And score prediction, did you say that already or not?
Oh, no, score prediction. Right. If they manage to play some semblance of a full-strength team, I think we'll win 2-1. If they are decimated by COVID, I'm going to go 4-1. But I think they might score first.
So something you just said there about Abada and Furuhashi. Isn't it like the cutest bromance we've seen since Paddy Roberts and Kieran Tierney?
Yeah.
Like, it's adorable to see. They both come in. They've come from different countries. Just how close those two look already. It's great to see.
Yeah.
But the other thing I want to say is if it wasn't for Furuhashi, Abada's name would be up in lights. Like how well he's come into the club and hit the ground running. It's unbelievable and it's great to see. So
for a 19-year-old, it's phenomenal.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
a 19-year-old to make that level of impact in a new country with a new club under a new manager, playing in a completely new system, it's incredible the impact he's had. Young Player of the Year, I'll tell you right now.
Yep. So I'm going. You guys have pretty much touched on the lineup, so I'm not even going to bother. It's going to be pretty much made up what you guys have said. Furuhashi through the middle, definitely. Edouard off the bench. If they're decimated from COVID, then we'll do them 5-1. If they have some semblance of a squad, then we'll do them 5-1. Nah, seriously, it'll probably be 2-1 or 3-1 or something like that. But in our favour. But yeah, I'm expecting to go there and win. What I've seen of them, I'm not really concerned. I think we've got they've got big lumber and centre backs. Look at the speed we're playing at. I just think they'll score. Their goals will come from set pieces. Ours will come from open play. So get it done, boys. Get it done. So we'll go through our final thoughts for the podcast. I'll go first, just because I want to leave Sean's till last. Now, on the weekend, because of the bullshit we've gone through with the racism earlier this week towards Kyogo, all I want to say to every Celtic fan out there is hold yourself to a higher standard. And if you see Huns on Twitter, at the pub, out in town, whatever, talking shit, being racist, being bigoted, don't stoop to their level. Just get on with it. Support our team. Be better than that. And no karma will sort them out nice and good and proper. Liam?
Yeah, I was just going to kind of echo what you said, Jarrod. At the end of the day, as three white guys in the Australasia region, we're all immigrants. And we all need to realise that as immigrants, go back far enough, everybody in the world is an immigrant. The only difference is a geographical accident as to where you're born. Racism is nothing more than utter stupidity.
And you, Sean?
My final thought is don't sell nudes of your baby to a record label.
Oh, come on, Sean. Never mind.
Oh, ba-dum.
All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Please subscribe to the Celtic Down Under podcast on your podcast app. Also, if you're on social media, check us out on Instagram and Twitter at Celtic Down. On our website, www.celticdownunder.com. We've got a couple new writers starting up soon, so there'll be more articles going out on there. And then on Facebook, you can look up our page, Celtic Down Under, or our group and join that. So we'd love to have you all involved. Have a good one, everyone. So hope we get a couple of wins in the next few days. Stay safe at the weekend. And hail, hail.
Hail, hail.
Hail, hail.